right. Well, we see that there are a lot of you joining. Thank you very much. And we'll continue to welcome guests as they come. My name is Claire Smith. I am the guest services manager here at Jordan. And we are very glad that we have begun welcoming guests back. So we are happy to raise a glass in person here at the winery. Yes, thank you all very much for taking the time to join us for this special opportunity to get to speak with our true neighbor, Pete Segasio, and our winemaker, Maggie Cruz, about Salumi and wine. The partnership for us with Journeyman Meat Company was fairly organic. Being our neighbor, that helps, but also we're all about food and wine, and any opportunity to have that story with the ingredients and the pairings for us is just perfect. So Pete is going to take the opportunity to tell you a little bit about Journeyman and how he got started. And then of course, Maggie will talk about the wine and we'll go back and forth and discuss there. And Maribel Soto has the opportunity to share some trivia with you as we get to the end. So stay, use those ears, listen to Pete and Maggie for maybe some answers in there. And we'll have some fun prizes to go with that as well. Please use the Q&A to, any questions you might have. We'll answer them throughout. We'll also do a section, depending on how many we have, on your computer. You're going to see it on the bottom. If you're on your phone, go ahead and click up in that right-hand corner, and you will see that option to have and submit a question to Q&A. So to get started, we are going to start with Pete. Pete, tell us a little bit about Journeyman, how you got started, and all the wonderful things Salumi.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Segasio, long history in this area, like the Jordan family, long history here. And I grew up out on the Pasalaca Ranch, which borders the wonderful Jordan property here in northern Alexander Valley. I started Journeyman about 7 years ago with the research. I made many trips back to Italy. I was very blessed to work with Dario Cecchini as my first internship. I worked for 2 months in his macelleria and learned the Italian way to cut beef, cut pork, and the Italians will cut meat in a different way. But one of the great things from Dario, one of the great things that Dario is such a defender of the local area, and a defender and a believer of the recipes from the Tuscan area. It was an incredible lesson for me that with our salumeria, with our cured meat company, that we wanted to focus on the recipes from the Sonoma County area. We are blessed with an incredible alliance of wonderful chefs, Todd Knoll being one of the top local chefs who's been on with Jordan for a number of years. And so we wanted to focus and build a meat company with recipes from our area. And so I was able to work with Dario. I started going back every February. It was a wonderful time when our vineyards are asleep here and the wines are asleep. It was a good time for me to go back, and I would spend 1 month every year in February with the Marini family out of Florence. And I learned how meat is made the true European way. If you taste the salami, the 3 salami you're going to taste today, one of the important things to notice is there's the silkiness, of the voluptuousness. There's not the typical American tanginess that you will see with the salami that you're trying today. Most of the salami made in America is fermented at a very high temperature. It's fermented at 95, 100 degrees. And so those high temperature fermentations make for a very fast process. And making salami is a lot like making wine. When it's a long, slower process, you end up with more nuances, more range of flavors, more complexity. Anybody can ferment fast. If you ferment fast, it ages fast, and it's a very boring salami. And the Europeans, the Italians and the French, the way that I learned, we ferment down in the low 70s. It exponentially takes fermentation much longer, and it makes the aging go twice as long when you ferment slow. So you end up with a much more wider spectrum of flavors when you ferment and you age that way. We, like Jordan, we only use the highest quality ingredients possible. It's all heirloom pork. It's all purebred, and it's all local, fresh ingredients, and it makes for something very special. So it's here in wine country, and we made this Buio for Chef Todd. It was a recipe that we did together, and it's just amazing. It's one of our favorite ones. It's cocoa powder, so it has a wonderful darker complexion to it, and it's just a great match with Cabernet. I can't wait to taste it with all of you.
Great. So should we jump into the wines and start eating and drinking? It's Friday, after all. Pete, I just want to say thank you, first of all, because I'm a big fan of Journeyman, and your meat boxes have been getting me through quarantine. My husband and I have been having some fun doing your different sausages and having salumi and trying to make more of a happy hour kind of situation. So I just want to say, if anyone out there, if you're in Healdsburg, you come to the winery, please stop at Journeyman. You won't be disappointed. Have lunch, dinner, just spend some time, maybe join the guild. It's a fun salami group.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you.
So I thought we could start with the 2016 and go through the different salamis. So 16 is just absolutely, it's our current release. We're super excited about this wine. It just has an intense amount of fruit. It's got that kind of blackberry, that cassis, the black cherry, made in a very, traditional Jordan fashion. We use about balance and restraint. So we want the nice fruit, and we want the oak to back it up. It's aged in 100% French oak. It's our second vintage to be aged in 100% French oak. And I just think that the French oak really supports the fruit. It doesn't mask anything. It doesn't overpower. It just really harmonizes with our wines. And one thing with us for our pairing, we feel that our wines are very food friendly because they have a lot of bright acidity to them. And they're lower in alcohol. We're always under 14%. So really everything is just balanced, and I think balanced wines really pair well with food. So the first salumi is, now am I saying this correctly, Pete? Is this the Finocchiona? My pronunciation is terrible.
Yes, this one is the Finocchiona. So
okay.
And it's fennel pollen, ground fennel seed, whole fennel seed, salt, pepper, no garlic, and but it is, in our area we see a fair amount of wild fennel growing in the area, and so that and I see it over on Jordan, and I see it on our ranch here where we have Cabernet or Cabernet Franc growing. We see wild fennel growing abundantly around where those Cabernet vines are. So it's a wonderful. You see it in Tuscany. You see it here in Sonoma County, and it's just a wonderful. It just feels magically right to have Finocchiona with great red wines from this area.
Mm-hmm. I know Chef Todd loves to put fennel and pair fennel with any of our Cabernets. I think it's his favorite spice, and it just really is a beautiful pairing. I think it kind of brings and even continues the length of the wine. It just keeps going, the finish, and going and going, and it just is really, it's really nicely balanced with this salumi.
Yeah, I think it. You don't want the salami to ever overpower the wine, and I think the salami's goal, or the salami's role, is to just cleanse the palate before that next sip of wine. And if you have a salami that's too hot, too spicy, it's going to take away from a great wine. And so it's really, our role today is just to be the palate cleanser for the great Jordan wines.
And Pete, can you also describe, just for those, for our guests who actually have the Finocchiona, just because I know for me, I've had this salumi quite a few times, but just knowing the difference between the two, and I know, this one definitely has a little bit of the phenols that you can see, but can you just describe for everyone who has that in front of them which one we're actually tasting right now?
We are trying the Finocchiona right now.
And it's the one with the little bit of, you can actually see the fennel seeds itself.
Yeah, you can see the little fennel seeds itself. The Buio is going to be the second one. The Buio is going to be the darker complexion one, and then the third one is going to have little specks of mushroom and porcini and Parmesan cheese. So the one that you should be trying now is the one that looks like a regular salami. It looks red, and it's going to have the little bit of seeds in it.
Excellent. And we have a couple of questions coming into our Q&A. Our first question for Maggie on the wine from Chris is, why do you keep your wines under 14% when all around you have most at about mid 14% and higher?
You know, from the very beginning of Jordan's history, we really wanted to be very Bordeaux and very French. And that's really coming from Tom and Sally Jordan, our founders. And French wines, and Bordeaux specifically, are really low in alcohol. And so we've always kind of had that style. And typically we like to pick on the earlier side. We don't wait until our grapes are really, really kind of jammy and really ripe. We like to pick at ultimate freshness, is what we always say. And so that usually leads to a little bit lower of a sugar, which turns into a little bit less alcohol.
Perfect. We have another wine question, for Michael. What do you think has been the biggest benefit of the change of Jordan Cabernet to 100% French oak, and what has actually prompted this change from a few years ago?
Great question, Michael. So really, a lot has changed since John Jordan took over the winery from his parents in 2005. And John tasked everyone in the winemaking staff to improve our Cabernet and make it even better, and just make the best wine possible. And so what we really started focusing on is just the best blocks of the estate here, and really just bringing those vineyards to life, and bringing those to the winery. And then also purchasing some fruit from other areas in Alexander Valley. And we're working with amazing families that have had these ranches for multiple generations. And they are very proud and know their vineyards better than anybody. I mean, they are very well informed and amazing farmers. And so we've kind of started to switch over the last 15 years to purchasing more and more outside grower fruit. And we found that as we were elevating our estate blends and purchasing better fruit, that we really didn't need the American oak to mask some of those other characters that we were trying to kind of, put in the wayside. American oak is very strong. You get a lot of the dill characters, that kind of coconut, and with our style being more of a feminine Cabernet, we found that the American oak was kind of overpowering. And so we feel that French oak, it was a big investment on our part. French oak barrels are a lot more money. We decided to, in order to have the same oak impact, we decided to increase the total percentage of new oak. And so it was a big decision on our part, but we really feel that it elevates the fruit, and it's just more harmonizing for our wines, and really just kind of balances everything out.
Thank you, Maggie, for answering those questions.
Yeah. Should we move on to the Buio?
Yeah.
The dark one? Yeah,
So
Pete,
sorry, Maggie. As we go on, I just wanted to mention, Pete, we have Cynthia who's actually joining us from Arizona on Zoom today. And she mentioned that she actually got to take a day meat class with Dario and Panzano last October.
Wow. Dario, before the whole pandemic hit, Dario and we were going to do, Dario wants Hillsburg and Panzano to be sister cities. And so there's a dream that we do an annual festival with Dario, 1 year in Panzano, 1 year here. But Dario was in our shop, he was in our shop, I think, in February. So, but he's an amazing man. He is the warmest, most enthusiastic individual that I've ever met. Just wonderful, wonderful man. So, Maggie, it's a great wine. Great job.
Thank you. I think it pairs beautifully with the Buio. It really kind of brings out that fruit intensity on the palate. It's really just dark and rich.
I agree.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the Buio is made? It's definitely a darker color than I'm used to seeing.
It came from, well, your chef gave us the cocoa powder, the King Arthur cocoa powder to work with. And what's neat about the King Arthur cocoa powder is that it's not sweet. And so it adds a wonderful flavor without the sweetness of traditional cocoa. And you can see what it did to the color, but this is juniper, anise, cocoa are the main ingredients in the Buio and Jordan Cabernet. And we haven't seen a salami like this in America. And so this was in our club shipment in September, and it was our most popular club shipment that we've had so far. We have another. Yeah, the Buio club shipment was the most popular. We're doing one with Pliny for this next September, so that's going to be pretty fun.
Get me in on that.
That's the neat thing with working with great chefs like Chef Todd, is that it pushes us to try new things, do new things, and if we can incorporate a great Chateau's wine into the blend, it's a wonderful component. The Jordan Cabernet is 2% of the recipe mix. 2% of it is Jordan Cabernet. So the non-meat portion of a salami is going to be around 10 to 12% between salt, pepper, the different spices, and the wine. So Jordan Cabernet 2% is a significant spice component, because we lose, through the curing and aging process, we lose 40 to 45% of the weight of the moisture from that mixture of meat and spices through the fermentation and through the aging. So that Jordan Cabernet is fairly concentrated in the Buio, and I think that comes through very nicely.
And Pete and Maggie, I have a question for you from Lizelle. She wants to know, what are some of your favorite things to put on your salumi plate? With, so we obviously recommended olives and nuts. What are some of your favorite things to add?
I love truffled almonds and Marcona almonds. They're just amazing. Truffle always brings in a great character with our wines as well. It's kind of like the new thing, the new sport to like build the ultimate charcuterie board. And we do such an amazing job here. And I've had Pete's out of his shop, and they're incredible as well.
We'll do peas, dried fruit. Well, and yes, go.
I would say, I think it's important to always have hard cheeses. At least one or two hard cheeses are a nice complement to salumi. Cornichons, olives are obviously quite common, but we always like a hard cheddar. Some type of hard cheese is a go-to for us with our boards.
Well, and kind of in the vein of that same question, at home, we don't all have that beautiful slicer that you have behind you. What's the best way for those of us at home cutting our salumis?
The best thing is just the best thing to use, and the Italians will tell you the best thing is a small sharp knife, and that the little salamettes, the salamis that are about this size, you would call that a salamette. Little mette just means small. So, but just using a small, very sharp knife is the key thing. That's what the Italians would stick with.
All right. Shall we taste the last one with the 2016, the Parmesan?
Absolutely.
So
this is Porcini and Parmesan?
Yeah, Parmesan and Porcini, Porcini and Parmesan. You can see, if you're lucky enough, you'll see the little chunks. The yellow is not fat. The white is the little bits of fat. The yellow is the Parmesan cheese, and it's a wonderful. Anytime you're using Parmesan cheese, it's a nice way to cleanse the tannin that comes from Cabernet having the most tannin out of the wines in California. But wonderful.
I really get the Parmesan.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. It kind of just cuts right through those tannins because this is a young wine.
Now look, one of the inspirations for this is, as a young son, or a young son of my father, he would always take me porcini hunting. One of the great spots, and don't tell John because I'll get in trouble. It's on the Passalacqua side of the Jordan Hill. So it's on Jordan property, but we've snuck up there and gotten some incredible porcini from this one spot. And it's an east-facing hill on the Jordan property. It's just barely over the line. But my dad would take me there as a little boy, and I didn't know it was on Jordan property. I found out later. But one of Alexander Valley's greatest porcini spots is on the Jordan property. And we just, being Italian, we love porcini, and dried porcini are an incredible component in salami. There's nothing like it. It's very, very unique. We just love the umami characteristic that it brings. And Maggie, if you've not been to that spot, I'll take you there.
Okay. We have 1,200 acres here. It's hard to cover every spot of this property.
Well, and Chef Todd likes to forage, so I'm surprised he hasn't found it. Maybe don't share. There won't be any.
I know.
That's right.
Hopefully he's not watching.
And Pete, what would you say as far as breads that are actually, that would be great for pairing? Is it Italian bread, French bread, sourdough?
I really love a lot of the local bakeries here. Obviously, everyone knows Tartine. I think Cousteau does a great job. Redbird does a great job. I don't. Bread in Italy is to me is an afterthought. It's always undersalted. I would love. I'm Italian, but I like French bread far more than Italian bread. But I like our local breads most of all. They're the most creative. They have the most texture, the most zing, and that's what I like.
Perfect. And Barbara, thank you for hanging in there with us. She lost power in Florida. She came back on, and she's got a generator. She's covered. We're good.
I like her priorities.
Thank goodness we haven't been dealing with that with the amount of winds that we've actually been getting and the warm weather that we've actually been receiving. There's no power outages yet.
No, not yet. I'm sure it's coming. Should we move on to the 2009 with the salamis?
I think
So
that's
2009, if you've been on any of the Zooms, everyone keeps asking me what my favorite vintage is right now, and I think this is it. And if you have it open, I think you'll see that there's really just this beautiful finish to this wine. It's just so nice and smooth and just kind of seamless. And I think it's the perfect age for my palate. I know some people like a little bit more time, some people like a little less, but this is kind of my sweet spot, that 10 to 12 to 15 year mark. And it's just, 2009 was a great vintage. It was really, again, another great intense fruit year. We really loved the quality of the Malbec that year in particular. And it's just really, you can get the Petit Verdot kind of coming off the estate. I'm getting that blueberry character kind of coming out more as it ages. And it's just a beautiful wine. I've always liked this one from the release, and I think it just gets better and better.
It's really surprises.
What's the blend on the 2009 as far as Bordeaux varieties, and what are the blends between the two? What are the differences? Are they the same?
Great question. So there is a little bit less Merlot with the 2016. We've been struggling finding Merlot in the area because we really want that kind of beautiful fruit forward kind of character Merlot, and we use the tannins, the softness of the Merlot to kind of mellow out the Cabernet. And so we've been struggling to kind of find the perfect Merlot. So that percentage has definitely gone down. Our Petit Verdot off of the estate has kind of increased a little bit over the last few years. And the Malbec has also increased as we planted more Malbec as well. Exact percentages, I mean, I'm focusing on bottling the 2018 right now, and I can't remember exactly what the 2009. Actually, Maribel and Claire are probably better at those because you guys are drinking those wines much more often than I am.
Yeah, Claire, do you want to jump in?
Sorry, someone's telling me that I'm going to have guests coming by, so I'm going to mute myself. I was trying to do a Jedi, but he had to use his words. So give me a moment. I mean, the blends here with the 2009 16, you know, we've got a little bit more of that Cabernet Franc. So let me, I should know these off the top of my head, but it's been,
They're fairly new.
and we have been focusing on getting, oh, there we go. Perfect. Lisa Matson. Thank you so much. Here we go. So 2016 is 75% Cabernet, 19% Merlot, 5% Petit Verdot, and then 1% Malbec. So that's a 2009. Just kidding. So 2009, 75% Cabernet, 19% Merlot, 5% Petit Verdot, and then the 1% of Malbec. And the Malbec, I think Maggie, is kind of a fun story. It's a small edition, but it makes, you know, an impact. What would you say is, you know, the main reason to add that Malbec in 2006?
2006 was the first vintage we had in Malbec. Yes, we found it off of the Faro Ranch, which is in northern Alexander Valley. Just really beautiful, like kind of, it's actually off a Pocket Canyon Road. It's this beautiful vineyard, and it's just great fruit. It's just really this kind of intense richness that we love, and it ferments beautifully and pairs or blends really nicely with our wines. It's funny with our percentages of varietals, our focus is really just bringing in premium and quality. We always have to have at least 75% in order to say Cabernet Sauvignon. But once we know we have that much in terms of percentage, it's really based on palate. We need the Merlot to soften out the tannins. We like the Petit Verdot just for the different characteristics. So, I mean, while we know the percentages, we don't really focus on them intently. So it just varies from year to year and really is about quality.
Well, and with that 2016, just to kind of round out that good question, the 80% Cabernet and 11% Merlot, 7% Petit Verdot, which I think is fun, and then 2% Malbec. So, I mean, they're different, but they're really quite similar. So Merlot and the Petit Verdot are the big differences.
Yes.
You know, I think one of the nice things about the Jordan style is that it is a very European French style. And the 2009 has great life and great vibrancy, which if you were to try many of the other typical heavier ripeness level Cabernets, they're only good for a couple of years. I mean, this has great life, great lineage, and the 2016 has, you know, it's what I think as winemakers, what a lot of what the new generation or the generation coming up is trying to do is ripeness at lower sugar. And I think that wine really speaks to that. I think they're both tremendous wines.
Thank you. Let's try with the salami.
I already tried with the fennel. It actually changes quite a bit. I love it.
Does it?
Buio is pretty tough to beat with them both.
And while we enjoy some of those salumis again, we had a question from Chris. Is you use a Chardonnay in the salumi? Can you tell us where that Chardonnay actually comes from? Maggie, where Chardonnay comes from? Sorry.
Sorry, I'm busy eating here. All of our Chardonnay comes from the Russian River Valley, and which is west of here, west, south, and west, and it's just. We purchase our fruit from an area mostly off of the East Side Road and River Road area. It's kind of a smaller patch of smaller subset of Russian River. Russian River is actually quite large of an appellation. But we just feel that is the best for our Burgundian style. We like, just like with our Cabernet, we pick a little bit on the lower sugar side. So we want those fresh fruit characters. We pick everything at night in order to lock in all of that beautiful acidity and the freshness and that kind of green apple character, the Fuji apple, and all those citrus aromas that our Chardonnay is known for.
And just kind of tied to that question for you, Pete, is of course the Salumi has Chardonnay, and then the Coco Buio has the Jordan Cabernet. So what would you think actually does change the Salumi with this wine? What were you exactly looking for?
Well, we use local wine in every salami that we make, and it just it's important. Even though the wine is only 1 to 2% of the initial mixture, it's just an incredible spice component. And so we're going to use the best the best of class wines available for our salami. So the Russian River Chardonnay that we used in this particular salami, I believe, was the Jordan Russian River Chardonnay. I would need to check, but I'm pretty sure that's what we used. But we with our winery partners, we're always procuring or buying Russian River Chardonnay for where we use white wine in our salami. We'll use Zinfandel in some of our salami as well. We use Pinot in our Sonoma Rosso, and that's going to be Russian River. In our Calabrian, we use Alexander Valley Zinfandel, and we use Cabernet in Parmesan Porcini. So, but they're always local wines. We feel it's important to use local wines since our artisan facility is here in Sonoma County.
Thank you. Thank you both.
I'm loving the Parmesan Porcini with the 2009. I think I mean, the tannins are already really soft and really mellow, and it just is even more soft.
Look at that chunk of cheese. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh,
Yeah.
I want that one.
For everybody tasting at home, let us know what actually you enjoy as well. We want to hear from you. Michael had a question. In addition to the 2009 vintage that you feel is drinking amazing, what other vintages should we grab in our cellar and open with our friends? I mean, besides the 6 liter that's tasting great right now, right, Maggie?
Yeah, exactly. I've always loved the 2007. That was just one of those amazing vintages. Nothing could go wrong. And so that one's still drinking absolutely beautifully. More recent vintages, 2012's always been one of my favorites. It was just kind of this epic vintage where you had both really high quality and high quantities. It was one huge party in Sonoma County that year. Everyone was really happy, growers and vintners. And the same thing with 2013. We love that vintage. That one has a little bit more structure to it in comparison to the 2012, but those have always been my favorite.
Thank you for answering. Actually, there was a question specifically about the 2012 about ageability on that wine, and I can mention on our website. Of course, we have tasting notes. We'll drop the link right now here, but we do have Maggie letting us know that that wine will age gracefully through 2032 in 750s. But if you actually get a Magnum, it's 2037 or later. So we do have that also available in Magnum, which is equivalent to 2 bottles of wine, of course, and then the 3 liter, which is equivalent to 4 regular size bottles. So if you want to hold on to something for quite some time and a special occasion down the road, then that would definitely be a year to do so. Thank
Well,
you, Maggie.
with that aging question, Maribel, Pete, what's the best way to age these meats? You know, people are assuming they're not going to finish them today. How do they keep them and continue to enjoy them, and for how long?
One of the, Salumi started back in the time of Romans, and it was cured pork with Mediterranean sea salt. And Mediterranean sea salt had natural salt. It also had sodium nitrate in it, and that's how salami got started. It started with back in Roman times. But salami is fine. It's shelf stable for up to 5 years. So you can leave it in your cellar and it's going to be fine from a safety standpoint. But from a flavor standpoint, I think it's best to keep these meats refrigerated and eat them over the next 6 months. Once you cut the seal, once you cut into the cryovac seal, the little salami will begin to sprout mold, and that's just, it's totally natural. Salami is a probiotic; it's a living entity, and so to preserve it best, it's best to keep it in the refrigerator. Just know that if you don't wrap it tight, that you're going to end up with some sprinkling of mold, because it's used in a room with mold. It has wonderful mold on all over the outside of it, so there's mold spores on it, and so they will re-sprout unless you vacuum seal it or just tightly wrap it. But that mold's not going to hurt anything. If the outside layer has a little mold, just slice it off. But that's one of the great things about it. Just leave it in your fridge, and it's great you know, when you have a good friend coming over, have the salami. It's a wonderful thing for the friends that show up unannounced, and for good friends as well.
Pete, we talked a little bit about, we alluded to your meat club earlier. Can you explain it? Because I think it's the best gift. It was given to me for a Christmas present from my neighbor. I've continued it and bought it for other people because it's just something that's great for someone from out of town. Or can you describe it a little bit?
Oh, Maggie, thank you. It's called we have the Meat Guild, and it's 4 shipments a year. It's February, May, September, and November. And each shipment is a new recipe specifically for the Meat Club. And so we have members all over the world, all over the U.S. We ship all over the U.S. And one is the September one was Buio last September. We did a Finocchiona with Charlie Palmer for November, along with our Andouille. February was a white truffle recipe. May was red wine and garlic. It was my memories as a little baby, as a little kid, trying salami for the first time from Nando's store down in Geyserville, where all the old Italians would go. And it was red wine and garlic salami, just incredible. So each time it's a new one. November is either going to be a recipe called Cowboy, which is from archives out of North Dakota. It's our meat consultant, Dr. Henson, out of Fresno State. Everything we do has to be approved by USDA, and Doc Henson is a dear friend of mine. We've been working with Doc for 5 years, and this is a recipe that he shared with us, and it's from a cowboy family out of the Dakotas. And we've taken it's just a cured pork that they would take on the trail, and we've done some R&D on that to make that into a really neat, compelling salami. So that's looking at November. We're doing some R&D with Dustin Villette for a November batch as well. So the need to do a new recipe 4 times a year helps keep things fresh and new, and gives us, you know, pushes us to do new and exciting things. And that's really the core of the club. So.
Thank you so much. Maurice has a question. We have the 2013 and 2014 Cabernets that they also purchased during the last time they were here. So thank you so much for coming out to see us. Any thought on how each of these might contrast with the 2009 and 16, or how they might pair differently with the Salumi?
Ooh, very good question. So the 14 I've always thought has a little bit more tannin and structure for the Jordan style. I mean, we're not these big monstrous tannic wines. That's not our style, but for the 14, it had a little bit more. So I'm thinking that the Porcini and Parmesan will really be nice with that, just because it has a little bit more of that kind of tannin. The Parmesan will really help with that, as we saw with the 16 and 2009. And then the 13 is just a beautiful wine. I think that's honestly going to go with anything, anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kathy had a question for you, Pete. If you were going to serve these Salumis again, and you could pick only one cheese, which one would you pick?
There is a hard truffle cheese out of Piemonte. I didn't do my cheese homework, and I apologize, but there's a hard cheese from Piemonte with truffle that I think would be incredible. That would be my choice.
Ooh, Claire and Maribel, we should look into that for the tours. That sounds delicious.
I think so. Right now we have a triple cream black truffle brie, but not the white truffle and that firmness.
Mm-hmm.
We do like our cheese and meat around here.
And that's one of the great things for those of you who actually joined us on our state tour and tasting previously, or a Chateau Block Vineyard Cabernet tasting that was recently launched. We're now offering that 5 days a week currently, and all of the Journeyman Salumis are actually featured on that tasting. So we're pleasantly surprised when someone doesn't show up for their tasting and we get to have goodies.
When we hike, we can see your home, Pete, so people can, and even from the terrace. So it's kind of fun. You're putting down a plate of beautiful salumi, and to point over and say, "There's their home." just right across the way. So when we say neighbors, we mean neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
One of the neat things being here is, especially at the holidays, is seeing the Jordan Christmas tree lights up on the pavilion.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing at Christmas to see that tree, and it's a wonderful thing. You know, when we all went through the fires last fall, I stayed behind, and to see Jordan lit up, and just it's a beautiful, very comforting thing to see Jordan lit up and just, manning guns and pumps, and we all got lucky with out last fall, and very blessed that we didn't get damaged, but it's just great and very heartening to see Jordan just on the other side of the hill.
I agree.
We agree.
Yes.
Maggie, have you tasted the 1996 recently? In a Magnum specifically? There was a question about actually holding on to that for at least another year for an anniversary. I tasted 95 about maybe 12 months ago. Claire, I don't remember, maybe Lisa actually mentioned something about the 96.
Yeah, I want to say I had the 98 at a dinner and we were blown away, but it's been a while since I've had the 96.
96, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still tasting well. If you said it was in a Magnum?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's definitely holding up and ready to drink now, I'm sure. So open it up for the next anniversary or whatever you're looking for.
Looks like 2003 was also one of the Foster's years that they purchased for childbirth as well. And I know that is definitely tasting quite nice.
Definitely, yeah.
Well, and Maggie, somebody's asking, what's in your background?
Oh, I am in the oak tank room. So we have 21 oak tanks behind me, and it's all filled with our 2018 master blend. We're going to be bottling that. Oh my goodness, next week. We'll finish Chardonnay on Thursday, and we'll start bottling the 2018 Magnums. And right now we just finished the last tank of egg white fining. So we decided that the 18 vintage needed just a little bit of egg white. So we just did half a pound per 1,000 gallons. So just a little bit of kiss of the egg white to kind of round out and soften the tannins there. And we'll start bottling next week. I'm excited. Get it going.
Lots of great happenings around here. Pete, what was your favorite kind of flavor with the 2009? Which of the Salumis did you prefer the best?
I thought the tannins on the 2009. I actually thought the Parma Porcini seemed to work really well with that wine. Yeah, I thought that wine still has a lot of structure to it. So and grip. So I thought the Parma Porcini really was great with it. Plus I find with the age of it, I think it has maybe not a mustiness, but it just has, when wines age, they just have not a mushroomy characteristic, but there's more of an earthiness that comes through. And I thought that with the Porcini was a wonderful match, I thought.
Maggie, you said your favorite was the Porcini,
2009, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. I felt exactly the same way. Just a great pairing.
I love the cocoa with the 2016, and I thought that was going to be my favorite again with the 09, but
Maggie, what are the clones on the Cabernet that you like best, or that dominate in the Jordan Cabernets?
Ooh, good question. On the I'll speak more with the 16 because we've changed things a little bit from previous vintages. But our director of agricultural operations, Brent Young, and I, he's the one who sets up that Christmas tree on top of the pavilion. He and I, we were working together and trying to figure out the best clones for our style. And so this last harvest, since we're replanting on the estate, We went to a nursery in Cool, California. It's in the foothills of the Sierras, and went through in October and tasted all the different clones. And it was really kind of a treat to taste just huge differences between all of them. We found a lot of new ones. We were really excited about clone 15. And then there's a Concannon clone that we thought was really nice. The tannins were just kind of perfect for our style. When you're chewing on those skins, it was some of them got pretty big and intense. It was kind of that's the perfect Napa clone. But yeah, we're kind of having a lot of fun playing out with different clonal selections. And as far as Merlot, because we're starting to plant some Merlot on the estate, we've kind of always gone back to the 181. That's definitely one of our favorites. It's just got that perfect tannin structure for what we're looking for. It's just really nice and soft. And we tried a few others, the on top clones, but we're going right back to the 181.
Neat.
Maggie, for those that don't know what all those names mean, can you talk a little bit specifically about clone and how that's important to vine?
So clones are just basically different selections of Cabernet grapes that are found all over the world, and it really it allows you to pick out different nuances within the same varietal. So when Brent and I were going through and tasting, we know our wines, we know what we're looking for. Like I said, we didn't want anything too tannic, so we're chewing the skins and the seeds and trying to make sure that those aren't overly astringent for our style. And then we're also tasting the fruit profile. We want that black cherry and the blackberry, and we're trying to stray away from the greenness. So anything that was at 24, 25 bricks, which is kind of our sweet spot for our Cabernet. If it had any greenness like green bell pepper or green bean, we were staying away from that. So it kind of just helps us to kind of craft and find our style of fruit profile and tannin structure.
Thank you. We had a couple more questions, Claire, if you want to take those.
Absolutely. So there was a question, because there was a mention, of course, of the fires, which we see from our property here. How did the fires affect last year's vintage?
So for us, we were very fortunate. We finished, like I said, we pick on the earlier side. So we were able to finish our harvest I think it was about 10 days before the fires broke out. This was the first time, yes, we encountered the fires in 2017, but it wasn't as close. So we weren't evacuated from the winery. So we could still get to the property and do our pump overs and pressing throughout that whole period. But this last year, in 2019, we were evacuated for about 4 days. So our director of operations, Tim Spence, decided to stay on property. So the only thing that we were concerned with winemaking is getting some of those tanks pumped over, especially the ones that are really active in fermentation. So I was talking to Tim kind of regularly. He's seen a pump over 1 million times in the cellar. He's worked here for many years, but he's like, I've never actually really done one. So we were on the phone and I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right. You need to open a valve, and kind of describing to him how to do it over the phone. And so he was able to pump those tanks over for us when we couldn't get our cellar crew in. But fortunately, our property was saved. We didn't have any real issues or any smoke taint with our wines or anything. So we were very, very lucky.
Very good. And Pete, any adverse for you?
No, for us, everything is HEPA filtered, and so all the air is filtered to make sure. And we open up the aging rooms each night to let the cold air that typically comes down from the Maya Commons, and so we'll switch out the air. But we have filters that we use for those situations. And I think that's the great thing about the Jordan style, and I think the majority of the county, from what I heard, 95, 97% of the fruit was in before the fire. And, hopefully it won't be 20, 30 years before we have another vintage like that. But the fruit was in.
Well, that's good to hear. We're all very, very fortunate. Maribel, this question's for you.
Oh.
Yes. What if there's one Jordan experience that is trending right now, what would it be and why?
Well, there's so much happening, and of course, I want to cover this as well on the end. But we just actually started our new Paris on the Terrace experience, which actually officially launched yesterday morning, and actually will happen and go through at least through the Labor Day weekend. So that's actually going to be offered 5 days a week, and we have 2 different time slots, so making it easy. It's actually a beautiful luncheon that's done al fresco outdoors. Also includes our wonderful partnership with the Journeyman Salumis, as well as some of our favorite cheeses, beautiful ingredients from the garden, and pairs not only with a couple of vintages of Jordan Cabernet, but as well as the Chardonnay, and as a special treat, also the Jordan Champagne. So those are some of the wonderful wines that we have available for that. So that just again launched yesterday and goes through September 7th. Our last group, so I muted myself, Claire and I muted ourselves a couple times because we had our last guest that we actually got to invite back to the winery after SIP for that just yesterday. So we hope you can join us for that.
All right, looks like we have one more question for Pete, and maybe we should get into some trivia, which this kind of leads into one of the questions.
Yeah.
Should I ask it, Maribel, or do you want to maybe ask your question and then Pete can explain? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do that. So Pete, we're gonna have everyone, so actually for our trivia questions, we wanted just to give some fun prizes, and we're gonna ask that one at the very end because that's gonna be our grand prize winner. So Pete, we're gonna ask for your help on that. Just to go over, we'll ask a couple questions, and we want you to use the chat box on the bottom of your, because of course everyone can hear us, but we can't see or hear you. So make sure that you use the Q&A to actually answer the questions, and the grand prize winner will be for the first correct answer that comes through the Q&A. On the first question, on our first trivia question, we have a beautiful Jordan little Salumi cheese board, which has the Jordan logo on it. That's going to be sent to the winner. So the Salumi are Italian cold cuts that are predominantly from what? From blank. So go ahead, answer that to the Q&A. We're going to look for the first answer and announce that. All right, so we got a quick winner here. I want to make sure that my scrolling did not actually get messed up. So Cynthia was the winner there, and yes, Cynthia is correct. That pork is the correct answer.
Great job, Cynthia. Great job.
Congratulations.
And Maribel, can you just clarify where they should answer the question?
Yes.
So chat or in Q&A, just so they.
Yeah, I'm looking at the timing actually is on the Q&A, so that actually gives me the first one in the gives me the time. So please, if you can use the Q&A versus the chat on the right. You'll see the Q&A button. It's got right now right next to the record button. So if you can type in your answers there, and they will come in order, and also have the timestamp to make sure that we are choosing the correct winner. And Cynthia, you're quick because you did it in both places real quick. All right, so for our next trivia question, we have, and Maggie, I'm going to have you give us the answer here once we have a couple seconds here to get people. I'll let you know when we have the winner. Cabernet Sauvignon is a cross between which 2 grape varietals?
Ooh.
All right, got our first ones here. And I see a winner. So Maggie, do you want to tell us what the answer is?
It is Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Franc.
Excellent. So Amy was the first winner there, and we have some beautiful Jordan tumblers, which is going to be perfect to have outdoors, poolside, with some covers that we're going to be sending to you. So we have a pair of those coming out. Thank you guys for everyone who got in there. Oh, no, it's nice. I see a lot of you got the right one. Way to go.
Well
Way to go, Amy. All right, next trivia question is, how many acres worldwide are actually dedicated to Cabernet Sauvignon? We have a pair of Jordan hats and a beautiful corkscrew that is going to be sent to the winner. And we have, again, the answers in the Q&A. Oh no, Barbara lost power again. She said no fair.
Oh no.
All right, Julie Williams, thank you for getting some answers. Let's keep on going. We have Gwendolyn said, definitely not enough.
That's a good answer. I didn't know this one.
Yes.
And how many acres in the world, right?
Yes, yes. So acres worldwide.
World are planted to Cabernet Sauvignon.
And we do have a winner. Debbie actually got closest. We're just giving a couple minutes here. Yep. So we have Jordan Cabernet answering. We have Debbie as the winner. And Jordan Cabernet answered with one less arrow. It is 840,000 acres. So Debbie, you were the closest with 88,000. We talked a little bit about, of course, our Salumis and our partnership and how we actually, what we're actually tasting with now at the winery. We are very pleased that after our shelter in place, we had the opportunity to also develop new experiences based on what's actually happening in regulations that were put upon each state, but also then came on a county level. And the first one was that we were able to, after about 3 months of shelter in place, that we were actually able to only open for outdoor experiences and get a little creative. Now for Jordan, we're very fortunate. We actually sit on 1,200 acres, and that gave us a lot of flexibility to actually use other areas of the property that were used maybe only once a day or used seldom. So we had a lot to play with, and we're very fortunate for that, as well as having an amazing culinary team and a beautiful 2-acre garden. So we, in the last couple of months, have developed also to opening the Chateau Bloc Vineyard Cabernet tasting, which is up in the newest, for those of you who have been to the winery in the last couple of years, have the new Jordan Cabernet Bloc right adjacent to the winery for the first time after, well, now we're about 40 years, right, Claire? After 40 years, the first time we actually planted vineyards close to the winery where you can actually see, which was pretty amazing.
I'm looking at them right now. They're right up there.
Yes. now you have a nice view from your, not that you didn't have a nice view from your window, Claire, but
better view.
But much better.
Yeah.
So our outdoor Cabernet tasting does include the Journeyman, and also our new Paris on the tasting, which is offered 5 days a week, the Chateau Bloc as well. So because of shelter in place, one of our favorite experiences, which was the estate tour and tasting, and roaming by private Sprinter vehicle, actually has now only to private buyout groups, so of 8 or more. So unfortunately, that has, again, to do with shelter in place and having guests in indoor in a vehicle to transport guests. So our charcuterie luncheon experience that's going on right now is going to be our grand prize winner. So I hope I got a little drum roll there to hype that up on how amazing it is. And Journeyman is a big, of course, focal point on what we're actually doing with our wines and what we get to taste. There's been a lot that's actually happening. For those of you who are joining us in California right now, you did get an email just yesterday, but all of the rest of you who are on a mailing list also received those news just about 2 weeks ago with all the new experiences. And our visit section, of course, has all those details, as well as outdoor picnics that are going to be offered on multiple dates and adding additional dates to that. So those are Friday and Saturday, and we also have a Saturday, Sunday that we're going to be offering that in August. So that's what's happening, but let's get back to winning some prizes. What do you think, Claire?
I think so.
So Pete, I'm going to have you, of course, be the after we get some questions in here, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about the actual answer so that we can pick the person who's going to be the closest. And there might be someone who's going to be right on the spot. But we again, don't forget to use the Q&A box for the answer, not the chat box. So we'd like to know what you think. What is the difference between salami and salumi? Let us know. We're going to have our charcuterie lunch for 4. So Jody says, I'm going to just read off a couple of things. Size, Helen, just words. Pronunciation, salami is Italian, is what Linda says. The size, we had a couple more. Temperature for curing. We had lots of size, lots of aging. The small batch. The US versus Europe, one is Italian. We had lots of great questions. So Pete, do you want to tell us a little bit about what actually is the difference between salami and salumi?
So salumi is the whole category. Salumi is coppa, lomo, prosciutto, culatello, salami. Salami is cut meat
Oh, I think we lost you, Pete.
into a case. So salami is part of salami inside salumi. Did I lose you? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I think, did everyone else, was it just me or did we? Yeah, can you, I'm sorry.
One more time.
One more time.
Salumi is the plural of salami. Salumi is the plural of salami. Salumi can also be the whole category of coppa, lomo, prosciutto. Salami is one type of salumi.
And I'm looking to see, do we have a winner? Jordan Cabernet, which is AKA our guru Kendall, that's on the back end.
I love Debbie Fogel's answer, salami when you're sober, salumi when you've had 3 glasses of Jordan.
Debbie, that's a great one.
She gets creativity.
That wins.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm still looking. Oh.
Salumi is the category from Heather. I see that. Oh, and Brendan said that too.
Would that be, yeah, because we have 2, I think the 2 closest one we have, salumi is a category, and then salumi is plural for salami. So technically would salumi is a category be an appropriate answer?
Yes, that's an appropriate answer.
Okay, because I think the other one came in just as you were giving our our answer. Perfect. Excellent. So sorry, more came in, so then I lost the timing to make sure here we had everything, those answers. Is everyone finished with their wine?
Yes.
I'm going to take the bottle home with me so I can enjoy it there.
It's Friday.
Friday.
Yeah. So perfect. Okay, I lost it. Sorry. Thank you, Jordan Cabernet. Brenton McElliott at 401 gave that response. So we'll definitely follow up with everyone who actually won our trivia questions. We want to just make it a little bit, fun and light here. So we'll make sure to reach out to you based on the email address that you registered with today to make sure we have the correct address to send this out to you, as well as the gift certificate. Nothing is actually temperature sensitive. We did another fun trivia with our members a couple weeks ago, and we were like, oh, let's send some beautiful chocolates, and we're like, well, it's 97 degrees, that's probably not a good idea. So I watched out for this one. Nothing that needs to worry about shipping in 97 or 100 degrees. It's going to be quite warm this weekend for Father's Day weekend, and it's going to we're so pleased. I know a couple of people who joined us today actually purchased this specifically for Father's Day or for their father. So that was fantastic that we were able to get Pete and Maggie on here. We actually just started bottling. Was it on Monday, Maggie?
Yes, we started bottling the 2019 Chardonnay on Monday, and things went well. So we're trucking along.
Well, thank you. We know what kind of efforts actually go behind getting something like that started. So it just happened to be that we had this already pre-scheduled several months ago, and then bottling got in the way. So we appreciate you hanging in there with us too.
No problem.
A long time today.
It's not hard to do this. I mean, it's a pretty dream job here.
And we talked a little bit about actually what's happening at Jordan before we let everyone go. But Pete, a couple questions, a couple of the questions that came in the chat was also, do you offer tastings, both of your Salumi and of Journeyman? Can you let people know where they can find you?
We offer tastings at our little Salumeria downtown. So our shop is located at 404 Center Street in downtown Hillsburg, and so that's where we do tastings there. A board will hold typically 10 different types of different Salumi. some of our whole muscle and 4 or 5 of our different salamis at the same time. And so that's usually the best way to taste.
And of course, walk-ins. Oh, sorry.
That's the same question. You go.
Walk-ins are available. There's reservations required.
No, walk-ins are available, and with the shelter in place, the ABC has let us expand outside. So we're also along the north side of the building, which is right now the best seats in Hillsburg because you're outside, but you're in the shade.
And that little.
Right next to Single Thread, for those of you who are in downtown Healdsburg, our Michelin star restaurant. So you got 2 beautiful views, and after a couple glasses of wine, you can just, you know, wobble over and have a 7-course, 11-course meal.
Great spot. Be right next door to Single Thread, and you know, close to Villette and to Guiza. It's a great place to be located at. So.
Excellent. And I know a couple of people actually tried the, as a Jordan VIP member, have also tried the Journeyman Bacon. And we actually featured that in our Bastille brunch this last July 14th last year. So we have some secrets of Journeyman that we've poured besides these 3 here.
Well, you know, we do a bacon mailing. The next one is October, and I need to do. Yeah, we do a barrel bacon, so I need to probably talk to Maggie about some barrel staves. It's fun to do barrel bacon with some Jordan barrels. So.
Great, we can trade bacon for barrels. I like it.
My kind of trade.
I'll cook it for you, Maggie.
Oh, excellent. So we have, I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anyone's questions as we kind of wrap things up. We know for those of you who join us on the East Coast, thank you so much. We know it was so much later. We had a couple of folks who from California said, well, 3 o'clock's a little bit early. And we're like, well, we're trying to find just the perfect time to make sure that everyone can join us. And we're definitely, I feel honored to have, you know, both of Maggie and Pete, and you know, of course, Claire, I love you too. But I get to see you much more often. But it's great to hear also from you. You know, as here, I mean, I've had the honor of being at Jordan now for 13 years, and you know, hearing all the details about these wines specifically from you, so that we can answer those questions when our guests have questions as well. So thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to share a little bit about what we're doing behind the scenes and what makes our pairings and all the efforts that our chef and Pete and Maggie have actually put together, not only with our salumis, but cheeses and everything else, all the hard work behind what we do here at Jordan. So we appreciate everyone joining us today on this beautiful Friday. Happy, of course, Father's Day weekend for those all who will be celebrating. And we thank you for all the connection issues. Barbara, thank you so much for hanging in there, going back and forth. Yeah. We'll be make sure to lend. Also, we are recording this, so we are going to be sending the link to anyone who would like to see this on next week. If you did purchase some of the salumis, we do definitely still have plenty more of the 2016 and the 2009, but we still have a couple of the salumis to go, right, Claire?
We do. I want to say we in total have access to about 50 more packs, because I think there was a limit on the Buio of what was available. So thank you to all of you. We knew it was going to be successful, but it was so successful that I had to get in touch with Pete's team and say, I need more for Monday. And they quickly got us more. So thank you so much for that support, and give us a call if you need a restock, and join their guild. I think I might have to do that after this. It sounds fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. These virtual tastings, we've continued them because although slowly some of the areas have actually been opening, we know a lot of you are still sheltered in place and you know, apprehensive. My daughter asked the other day why everyone else gets to go to restaurants and we cannot, because we have a 90-year-old grandpa we got to take care of from time to time. So it's great to be able to share with you and do what we love, because in hospitality, that's been the hardest, is one, having a mask on when we do have guests, and we're so used to hugging and smiling guests when they come here. So we appreciate everyone joining us today, and happy to answer any other questions. You can go directly to our website, and those actually all come directly to Claire and myself. So if there's anything further that you'd like to ask, we'd be more than happy to answer that for you that didn't get today. So thank you again. Have a happy Friday, and we'll see everybody soon. Cheers.
Happy Father's Day.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone.